එදිනෙදා ඔබේ මුළු සිරුරටම රැකවරණයක්. සුදේශී කොඹ සබන්.
ලෙන්ගතුකම වැඩි කරගන්න ලව්ජු රුපියල් 50 අඩු කළා.
මාමේ එන්න අපිට එකක් බොමු.
Tonight, finding a way. The government undeterred by rising COVID-19 infections among foreign arrivals.
Government will ensure those who want to come back to Sri Lanka will be brought back to Sri Lanka.
Lockdown revisited. The country returns to island-wide curfew on Sunday and on the 4th and 5th of next month. People's franchise at stake. The Supreme Court hears that nowhere in the Constitution does it say that the election should not be held or that the old Parliament should be reconvened. All that and much more coming up on First at 9. This Thursday, the 28th of May 2020.
හැටනමයි 97ට SMS කර රුපියල් මිලියන 3ක මුල්තැන්ගේ උපකරණ දිනාගෙන අවුරුද්දෙම කුස්සිය ටයිම් සේව් කරගන්න.
From AdaDerana, this is AdaDerana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to First at 9. I'm Dhamma Kekanai. Let's start with the local stories. Now, as the novel coronavirus pandemic continues to spread throughout the world, preventive measures targeting imported cases have become a pressing challenge in Sri Lanka, with the country seeing an intense escalation of COVID-19 infections among the repatriated. Over 400 recently repatriated persons have tested positive for the virus so far, with a large percentage of them being returnees from the Middle East. Although this increases the country's overall number of virus cases, it has to be highlighted that there hasn't been a single locally transmitted COVID-19 infection in Sri Lanka for almost a month, except for the Navy cluster. Although the surge in imported cases are proving to be problematic, the government says that it will ensure the repatriation of Sri Lankans who want to return to the country.
After successfully curbing the spread of the feared coronavirus COVID-19, the government is now confronted with a different challenge. The new challenge comes in the form of imported virus infections. From the 150 COVID-19 cases confirmed yesterday, 97 are overseas returnees, with 92 being returnees from Kuwait and 5 are arrivals from Chennai who are being quarantined at the facility in Katukaliava. The remaining 53 infections are confirmed as naval personnel. Meanwhile, among the 34 COVID-19 cases identified today, 15 are arrivals from Kuwait and another 15 are arrivals from Dubai. Accordingly, from the 466 persons repatriated from Kuwait who are currently under quarantine, 321 have so far tested positive for coronavirus. In such a backdrop, some Sri Lankans who are employed in Kuwait are urging the government to send help from Sri Lanka by way of a medical team. Meanwhile, responding to questions over government stance on repatriation, given the current spike in imported cases, Cabinet co-spokesperson Dr. Ramesh Patirana had this to say.
Have you taken a decision, the government or cabinet, to taken a decision not to expect it further Sri Lankans back to Sri Lanka?
Not taken any decision as such. The government will ensure all the Sri Lankans, those who want to come back to Sri Lanka, will be brought back to Sri Lanka. But for that, we need to take more precautionary methods. As we have seen, significant number of returnees are infected with COVID-19. So we will take necessary measures to ensure that we quarantine them properly, for which we need space. A long process, it takes about 14 days. Government is carefully looking at that situation and will draw up a plan to ensure that disease would not spread in the community because of the people, those who return from other countries.
The highest number of COVID-19 cases reported in the country is from the Navy cluster, and the total number of Navy infections reported since the 22nd of April now stands at 693. The overall figure of recoveries among naval personnel rose to 357 today, with 13 sailors being discharged from hospital. Meanwhile, with the detection of a COVID-19 infected sailor yesterday from the Navy-owned Gafoor building in Fort, 200 Navy personnel attached to the building were directed for quarantine. With the new detections, the overall figure of the country's COVID-19 infections stand at 1,503 and 748 among them are active cases. Meanwhile, the country's COVID-19 recoveries increased to 745 today, having risen by 13. The island nation reported 10 deaths owing to the virus, and most among them suffered from underlying health conditions. Barring the naval cluster and the infections reported from the batch of repatriations, there haven't been any locally transmitted cases of coronavirus in Sri Lanka for the past 28 days. Meanwhile, the Director General of Health Services, Dr. Anil Jasinghe, has issued a series of guidelines for a new way of life in order to prevent the spread of COVID-19. These guidelines are issued for the general public in an array of sectors and activities, including the use of taxi services, public transport, fitness centres, tourism and hotels, funerals, public meetings, seminars and workshops.
කොරෝනා වෛරසය පැතිරීම වළක්වන්න සබන් යොදා දෑත් සෝදන්න.
Now, the entire country will once more be under curfew this coming Sunday. What's more, the government has also announced today that an island-wide curfew will be worked off on the 4th and 5th of next month. Meanwhile, the curfew will continue to be in effect over the island as usual from 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. in all other days, and inter-district transportation continues to be permitted except for Colombo and Gampaha.
A communique issued by the President's Media Division today said that the entire country will be under curfew this Sunday, the 31st of May. The curfew will then be lifted at 4 a.m. on Monday, the 1st of June, and will be reimposed at 10 p.m. later that same day. The cycle will then continue until Wednesday, the 3rd of June. Meanwhile, an island-wide curfew will also be worked off on the 4th and 5th of June, restricting movements. The curfew will be lifted at 4 a.m. on the 6th of June and will be reimposed at 10 p.m. on the same day. As before, the cycle will continue to be in effect until further notice. Inter-district travel will be permitted as before except in the districts of Colombo and Gampaha. In the meantime, after the curfew was lifted at 4 a.m. today, members of the public were seen adhering to the prescribed health and safety protocols as bus and train services resumed.
අද දින කොළඹලා දුම්රිය 31ක් ධාවනය කරනු ලැබුවා. මගින් 15901ක් පැමිණියා. මෙම දුම්රිය 31 තුල ආසන 21000ක පමණ ප්‍රමාණයක් තියෙනවා. තවත් මගින්ට පැමිණීමට අවස්ථාව තියෙනවා. ඒ ගැන සල්කා බලා සමහර දුම්රියවල මගින්ට තියෙන ඉඩපඩ ප්‍රමාණය අපි බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා වැඩි කරන්න. ඉදිරි සතියේදී ඒ වැඩි කරලා කිසිම මගියෙකුට තදබදයක් නැතුව ගමන් කිරීමට අවශ්‍ය පහසුකම් ලබා දෙනවා.
Meanwhile, patients that had arrived at the cardiology unit of the National Hospital in Colombo were severely inconvenienced today. Queues were seen stretching beyond the gate of the hospital for extensive hours. Meanwhile, people who arrived at the Halsdorf Court complex were seen ignoring the social distancing protocols. In the meantime, in Madatugam of Anuradhapura, things became tense when a group of farmers protested at the area's agrarian services premises over the authorities' failure to follow through on the promise to provide them with fertilizer. Around 300 farmers from the Mahavali H zone were involved in the demonstrations, and later they blocked the A9 road. Following the intervention of the Kakirawa police, the protesters dispersed as they were promised fertilizer tomorrow.
Cabinet co-spokesperson Dr. Bandula Gunawardena today laid bare the current economic state of the country, saying that this is the worst foreign exchange crisis to hit Sri Lanka in its history. Addressing the cabinet media briefing today, he said that the cabinet gave the nod to freeze the assessment tax at its current levels for 2 years.
මුදල් අමාත්‍ය මහින්ද රාජපක්ෂ මැතිතුමා ඉදිරිපත් කළ ආනයන සීමාකරණය පිළිබඳ විශාල ගැසට් නිවේදනය. මේ ගැසට් නිවේදනයේ තියෙන සියලුම භාණ්ඩ වර්ග කොටස් හතරකට බෙදෙනවා. කිසිදු ප්‍රශ්නයක් නැතුව සාමාන්‍ය ක්‍රමයට ආනයනය කළ හැකි භාණ්ඩ, විශේෂ වෙළඳ භාණ්ඩ බදු පනත යටතේ වැඩි බද්දක් ගෙවලා ආනයනය කළ හැකි භාණ්ඩ, තුන්වෙනුව දින 90කට වඩා වැඩි කාල පරිච්ඡේදයක සැපියුම්කරුගේ ණය පහසුකම් යටතේ ගෙන්නන්න ඉඩ දෙන භාණ්ඩ తాවකාලික වශයෙන් සම්පූර්ණයෙන් තානම් කර තිබෙන භාණ්ඩ. මේ ලයිස්තුව කැබිනට් මණ්ඩලය සම්පූර්ණයෙන් අනුමත කළා. මක්නිසාදයක් ලංකා ඉතිහාසයේ දරුණුතම විදේශ විනිමය අර්බුදයට අපි මුහුණ දීලා තියෙනවා. සාමාන්‍යයෙන් අවුරුදු 5න් පාට පළාත් පාලන ආයතන වලට වරිපණම් බදු තක්සේරුව වැඩි කරනවා. කොවිඩ්-19 වසංගතයේ කාරණ කොටගෙන පීඩාවට පත්වෙච්ච සුළු හා මධ්‍ය පරිමාණ කර්මාන්තකරුවන්ට, ව්‍යවසායකයන්ට සහ සාමාන්‍ය ජනතාවට සිද්ධ වෙන මේ තත්ත්වයේ වැළැක්වීම සඳහා తాවකාලික වශයෙන් අත්හිටවල තියෙන අවුරුදු 2ක් යනතෙක් අය කරමින් සිටි බදු අනුපාතයම අය කරන ලෙසට ආණ්ඩුකාරවරුන්ට පළාත් පාලන ආයතන සමග සාකච්ඡා කරලා වැඩපිළිවෙලක් සකස් කරන්නට කියලා සඳහන් කළා.
හාල් මාෆියාවට යට වුණා නේද ආණ්ඩුව?
ආණ්ඩුව හාල් මාෆියාවට යට වෙලා නැහැ. අපි කලින් රජයේ එකඟ වෙලා තිබුණ මිල රුපියල් 98ක් එකඟතාවයකට ඇවිල්ලා මේ මිල ක්‍රියාත්මක කළා. ඊට පසුව ඇති වූ තත්වයන් තුලදී රජය තවදුරටත් පාරිභෝගික ජනතාවට සාහනය සලසා දීම සඳහා තවත් ඒ 98 මිල පහතට හෙලන්න උත්සාහයක් දැරුවා. ඒ දැරුවත් එය ප්‍රායෝගිකව ක්‍රියාත්මක කිරීම පිළිබඳ වෙළඳපොලේ ගැටලුවක් ඇති වුණා. ඒ තුලින් අතිගරු ජනාධිපතිතුමාත් පාරිභෝගික කටයුතු පිළිබඳ අධිකාරියත් සියලු මැදිහත්වීම් කර අවසානයේදී නැවත හිඟියක් ඇති නොවන ආකාරයට නව කුඩා 100කට වඩා පහතින් හාල් මිල තබා ගැනීමට හැකිවන ආකාරයේ යම්කිසි ගැළපුමක් ඇති කරලා තිබෙනවා. ඒක කාගේවත් ජයග්‍රහණයක් හෝ පරාජයක් නොවේ. පාරිභෝගිකයාගේ පැත්තෙන් ජයග්‍රහණයක්. මොකද පාරිභෝගිකයට භාණ්ඩ හිඟියක් ඇති කරොත් අපි අතේ රජයේ නැතුව හිඟියක් ඇති වුණොත් ඒ ඇති වෙන තත්වයේ තුල කළු කඩ වෙළඳ පොලක් ක්‍රියාත්මක වීම වැළැක්වීම සඳහා තමයි මේ ක්‍රියාමාර්ගයේ අරන් තිබෙන්නේ.
We will see you shortly after this break. Stay tuned. Welcome back. You're watching First at 9. Now, the fundamental rights petitions challenging the polls and the President's Gazette dissolving the Parliament were considered for the 8th day today. During today's proceedings, the Supreme Court heard that nowhere in the Constitution does it say that the election should not be held or that the old Parliament should be reconvened if there is any cause that the election cannot be held within 3 months after the dissolution of Parliament. It also heard that through a verdict of the Supreme Court in a previous case, the court has said that articles of the Constitution cannot be considered individually but as a collective. The fundamental rights petitions filed challenging the Gazette notification of the President dissolving the Parliament were considered for the 8th day by the 5-member judge bench of the Supreme Court. Making submissions on behalf of one of the intervening petitioners, President's Counsel Sanjeeva Jayawardena gave special attention to the powers vested on the President by the Constitution pertaining to state finance management. He called the argument of the petitioners that the President doesn't have powers to obtain loans and money for states' capital expenditure without the Parliament's approval baseless. He made evident that under subsection 3 of Article 150 of the Constitution, in a situation where the Parliament is dissolved prior to the appropriation bill passing into law, if the government has not allocated money for public services, the President has the power to draw funds from the consolidated fund and spend that money. He added, although the petitioners present a narrow argument that the term public services included in subsection 3 of Article 150 of the Constitution solely means payment of state sector salaries and meeting recurring expenses, the argument is inaccurate. He added that even subsection 2 of Article 150 of the Constitution, which provides provisions to appropriate money passed via a vote on account or the budget, uses the phrase specified public services. The President's Counsel went on to say that the phrase public services was included in past constitutions and it was similarly included in the Constitution of 1978. He emphasized that it is wrong to characterize the term public services only as the government's recurring expenses and that it includes the state's capital expenditure as well as debt services. He noted that although it is appropriate to manage state finances under the Parliament, the legislature has made constitutional provisions to keep the Parliament from convening just over state financial powers. President's Counsel Jayawardena said that if dates are fixed to hear the FR petitions, there is a high chance of the Election Commission saying that the election process cannot be moved forward until the petitions are heard. He therefore said, fixing dates to hear the petitions will bring about malignant results. The President's Counsel went on to emphasize that fixing dates to hear the petitions will not only delay the polls, but the Parliament will continue to be a dissolved Parliament, which is more unfavourable. In the meantime, President's Counsel Ali Sabri made submissions pertaining to the intervening petition filed by Professor Sudhantha Liyanage. He made evident that through the verdict, which invalidated the dissolution of Parliament in 2018, the 7-member judge bench of the Supreme Court said that articles of the Constitution cannot be considered individually but should be considered collectively. The President's Counsel added that when considering the petitioner's argument that the President's Gazette of March 2nd is invalid, Articles 33, 62, 70 and 101 should be considered together. Furthermore, although the President has acted in line with the requirement of the Constitution, which deems the President must fix dates for polls within 3 months, in a situation where the polls cannot be held as such, the next best mechanism to hold the elections is provided via the Parliament Elections Act of 1981. He added that nowhere in the Constitution does it say that the election should not be held or that the old Parliament should be reconvened if there is any cause that the election cannot be held within 3 months. President's Counsel Ali Sabri went on to say that at a time when the President refrained from enacting emergency regulations to control COVID-19 without inconveniencing the public, the opposition's calls for the enactment of emergency regulations are aimed at reconvening the old Parliament and not out of love for the people. He noted that since the petitioners say that Sri Lanka too should pass new laws to battle COVID-19 since other countries have done so, it is important to identify several of those countries. He said that among those countries, Brazil has over 400,000 COVID-19 cases, while France has over 180,000 cases and the United Kingdom has over 200,000 cases. As such, he said the President has deemed it unnecessary to reconvene the Parliament just for the sake of new laws, since it's evident that Sri Lanka has successfully brought the COVID-19 situation under control with the use of existing laws. Intervening petitioners will make further submissions from 10 a.m. tomorrow. Now in other stories, late Ceylon Workers' Congress leader Arumugan Thondaman's son Jeevan Thondaman has been proposed to fill the void created by the passing of his father in the Nuwara district's Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna nominations list. Arumugan passed away on Tuesday following cardiac arrest, and his remains were taken to the parliamentary complex today.
Large crowds, including politicians, called at the residence of late leader of the Ceylon Workers' Congress Arumugan Thondaman in Kumbugahaduwa of Battaramulla to pay their last respects. The late politician's remains were taken to the parliamentary complex at around 10:30 a.m. Among those who accepted the late parliamentarian's remains were Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa. Later, the PM was joined by President Gotabaya Rajapaksa and Speaker Karu Jayasuriya in paying their last respects to late Arumugan Thondaman. In the afternoon, his remains were brought to the CWC headquarters along the Ananda Kumaraswamy Mawatha in Colombo 3. The late politician's final rites are set to be performed on the 31st of May with state sponsorship at Norwood Grounds in Hatton. In the meantime, estate workers in the hill country refrained from working today as well in mourning of the late CWC leader's passing. White flags adorned the streets and most shops were closed. Meanwhile, a meeting between Politburo members of the CWC and the Prime Minister was worked off at the PM's residence along Vijayarama Mawatha yesterday. During the meeting, the Ceylon Workers' Congress had requested the Prime Minister to give nomination to late Arumugan's son Jeevan Thondaman for the general election. A statement issued by the PM's office said that future measures will be taken on the request.
Now, leader of the United National Party, Ranil Wickremesinghe, has informed 102 party members of the suspension of their party membership with immediate effect by way of letter. UNP decided to suspend the party membership of many members, including former opposition leader Sajith Premadasa, for signing nominations with other parties without seeking the permission of the UNP Working Committee.
Leader of the United National Party Ranil Wickremesinghe has informed in writing to 102 party members who signed nominations from the Samagi Janabala Vegya that their party membership has been suspended with immediate effect. Issuing a statement yesterday, General Secretary of the UNP Akhila Viraj Karyavasam said that none of the UNP members who signed nomination papers for the looming election from other political parties sought written permissions from the party working committee. Among those who have been suspended are former opposition leader Sajith Premadasa and several senior UNP members. 7 days have been granted to them to make written submissions citing their reasons. Legal Secretary of the UNP Attorney at Law Nisanka Nanayakara stated that the letters of suspension have been sent to the relevant persons by post. A decision regarding the matter is to be taken at the UNP Working Committee meeting scheduled to be held tomorrow.
Now, the Consumer Affairs Authority has published the extraordinary Gazette notification pertaining to the revision of maximal retail prices of rice. The Gazette notification states that the revised prices will come into effect from today. Accordingly, the new maximum retail price of a kilogram of kiri samba is 120 rupees. Steamed or boiled white or red samba, excluding suduru samba, will be retailed at a maximum price of 98 rupees per kilogram. The maximum retail price of white and red raw samba, meanwhile, will be 98 rupees per kilogram. White and red nadu, excluding mottekarupan at Takari, will retail at a maximum price of 96 rupees per kilogram. In the meantime, the maximum retail price of white and red raw rice will be 93 rupees per kilogram. No importer, producer, distributor or trader are allowed to sell the listed varieties of rice above the new maximum retail prices. An 18-hour water cut will be in effect in several areas of Colombo on coming Saturday. The National Water Supply and Drainage Board said that the water supply for Colombo 2, 3, 7, 8, 9 and 10 will be suspended from 9 a.m. on Saturday to 3 a.m. on Sunday. It added that Colombo 1 will experience a low-pressure water supply during this period. The water cut is being imposed due to essential repairs of the main transmission pipe from the Ambatale water purification plant to Maliga Kanda. We'll see you soon. Bear with us. Welcome back. This is First at 9. Now, to bring you a market update, Sri Lanka's stocks closed 1.82% higher today, driven by blue chip stocks, mainly John Keel's holdings. The all-share price index rose by 87.15 points to 4,887.11, and the S&P SL20 index of more liquid stocks gained 49.52 points to 2,063.88. Market turnover was 1.2 billion rupees, with 109 stocks making gains and 46 stocks falling. Now here's a brief report on today's market performance, followed by a currency update.
Today we saw the market surge for the second consecutive day as the market ended in the green, up about 87 points. We saw the market moving up or surging at the start of the day and then during the first 45 minutes, and then a bit of a stagnant period in the midway, and finally again during the last hour or so we saw another upsurge in the index. Throughout the day, as the market progressed, the selling pressure that was in the banking sector also got absorbed, and we saw significant buying interest coming back into the market, into the banking sector counters as well. 43% of the turnover was mainly dominated by John Keel's holdings and Expo Lanka. Foreign participation was relatively high during the day, with foreign buying and foreign selling. However, the dominant factor was the foreign selling front. Therefore, we saw a net foreign outflow for the day again.
Now, despite an anti-malarial drug surfacing as a treatment that can be used for COVID-19 patients, many experts say that the drug can cause side effects and cannot be substantiated as an official drug to be used in treating COVID-19 patients. Heeding to those claims of experts, governments of the European Union took the stance, or in fact I should say several governments of the European Union took the stance to ban the use of anti-malarial drug hydroxychloroquine in the treatment of COVID-19 infected patients.
Only second to the United States, Brazil recorded 1,148 fatalities within the past day and over 22,000 COVID-19 infections. The country continues to record the highest fatalities and infection from the South American continent. In the meantime, European governments moved to halt the use of anti-malarial drug hydroxychloroquine to treat COVID-19 patients. The move by France, Italy and Belgium followed a World Health Organization decision on Monday to pause a large trial of hydroxychloroquine due to safety concerns. The study, being led by the University of Oxford and partly funded by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, was expected to involve as many as 40,000 healthcare workers. Meanwhile, the head of the Africa Centers for Disease Control and Prevention said that cases of community transmission of the coronavirus are growing in Africa, particularly in Ethiopia. They further stated that a new strategy for testing is needed to prevent this. The continent as a whole has reported over 125 COVID-19 infections reported so far. Elsewhere in the world, Indonesia continues to prescribe 2 anti-malarial drugs for coronavirus patients, despite it being banned in European nations over safety concerns. The world's 4th most populous nation has since late March recommended that chloroquine and hydroxychloroquine be widely administered, including to coronavirus patients with moderate to severe symptoms. South Korea today reported a continued spike in new coronavirus cases linked to a logistics center in a city west of Seoul. A total of 69 cases had been traced to the logistics center operated by the country's leading e-commerce operator. The company said all employees at the facility who had contact with the patient were put under self-isolation and that the facility has been shut down. Meanwhile, the Philippines Health Ministry has reported 17 more coronavirus deaths and 539 new infections, the largest number of cases reported in a single day since the virus was first detected in the country. The ministry said total infections have risen to 15,588 and 921 people have died, while the number of recovered patients were 3,598. An interagency panel on coronavirus has recommended that President Rodrigo Duterte ease the strict lockdown measures in the capital, which accounts for most of the coronavirus cases and deaths, to restart economic activity. World Health Organization Director General Dr. Tedros Ghebreyesus launched a WHO foundation with the aim of increasing funding to the Global Health Authority.
For WHO to fulfill its mission and mandate, there is a clear need to broaden our donor base and to improve both the quantity and quality of funding we receive, meaning more flexible funding. Since February 2018, we have been hard at work supporting the establishment of the WHO Foundation, and today, after a hard work of 2 years, more than 2 years, it gives us enormous pleasure to launch it officially, to launch the WHO Foundation. This is a historic step for WHO as an integral part of our resource mobilization strategy to broaden the contributor base.
And that's it from all of us here at First at 9. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.